Hello and welcome to the first episode of the DJMC Sports Talk Radio. I am Dawson Peterson, your host. My co-hosts are Carson Alaska and Matthew Baltz. In today's segment on January 28th, the very first thing we're going to talk about is some NBA action that has been occurring. So tonight, the Lakers are on their second game of their road trip where they will be hosted by the 76ers. They are 4.5-point favorites in that game. But before we talk a little bit about that, we're going to talk about the recent play out of Anthony Davis and LeBron. So the first game of the road trip, the Los Angeles Lakers traveled to Charlotte to take on the Hornets, where it was all AD and LeBron. AD had a double-double at the end of the first quarter. He finished the night with 42 points and 23 rebounds on 37 minutes. LeBron contributed pretty well all over the area with 22 points, 7 boards, and 8 assists on his 36 minutes. Before they headed out to the East Coast for their 7-day road trip, they played host to the defending champs, the Boston Celtics, where they dominated. They won by a great score of 21 points. AD had 24, 8, and 3 on only 30 minutes of play. And LeBron played well with 20, 14, and 6 on 31 minutes of play as well. Now, my question is, yes, the Lakers have won 7 out of their last 10. Do you guys think that they have enough now to make a deep playoff run? What do you think, Carson?
I think so. But I like AD's play right now. I think that they can't really go that deep into their bench, though. I think they're relying too much on AD currently, and him having a big night helps out a lot against teams like the Celtics and the Hornets these past couple of nights.
And what about you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the NBA, you look at a lot of teams, you look at the Heat 2 years ago, you look at the Mavs last year, you look at teams who might not perform as well in the regular season. That could be due to a multitude of things. Guys are missing games a lot of the time. Obviously AD has had a hard time staying on the court, although him and LeBron have both played 41 games this year. The Lakers are getting a little, they're getting a little more back. Vanderbilt just came back. He'd been off the court for a year. You got Reeves, Russell, Hachimura. Connect has been a great rookie. He's only going to continue to get better. I think, whenever you're talking about a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they're always going to have a chance to make a deep run. I think it really just comes down to health, and it comes down to consistency. Obviously, LeBron James, guy's over 40 years old. He's an old guy, and a body that old can break down quickly when you're playing at that high of a level. But, if these guys get playing their best basketball come mid-April, early May, they're a team that I don't think that Western Conference opponents are going to want to see.
Yeah, and I mean, you said exactly what I was going to say. They are playing fantastic basketball. They are very hot, and the concern is the injuries. Anthony Davis, very typical. Always has the one lingering thing that kind of wrecks this season for him. I believe that if AD can stay healthy, he's a good two-piece to LeBron. And LeBron, he said he's in his 40s now. But the thing about him is I haven't seen any deceleration from him at all. He looks the same now as he did back, when he first walked in for the Lakers. He looks the same. He's moving the same. I would say his minutes have went down a little bit, but that's just when you're beating teams, and you're up. I think last night the Lakers were up on Charlotte 31-12 at the end of the first quarter, something crazy like that. So he didn't play a lot in the first half, but he played 36 minutes. So he played 3 full quarters of basketball last night. Now, there has been a little speculation of a possible trade. AD came out the other day and said that he thinks that this team is 1 or 2 pieces away from winning another ship. He said preferably a big. What do you think the acquisition of another big would change, maybe the complexion of the playoffs for the Lakers, Carson?
I could see them going out and getting like a Jonas Valanciunas. That was one of the names that kind of popped up on the radar. It's just kind of tough to lose one of those key pieces like a Reeves or a Connect or a those ones that are developing into their roles currently.
Yeah, and I get that. A veteran presence. You put another veteran with more veterans to teach the younger guys that are already there, and that can take
Yeah.
you a very long way with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
Valanciunas, I've seen his name. He plays for the Wizards. The Wizards,
Yeah.
they're not playing for anything. So they
Yeah.
might look to trade him for maybe a pick or maybe
Pick, yeah.
something
Pick, yeah.
to help them for the future. So I could totally see Valanciunas. Before I go to you, Matt, I'm going to say what I was going to say. I've kind of a little bit on the opposite side of what you were thinking of a veteran. I was thinking more of like a younger guy, like a Walker Kessler for the Utah Jazz. Yeah, he's a younger guy. I think he's a great defender, a great rebounder. Now, however, that's going to cost a little bit more for the Lakers to get him. But like I said, the Jazz might be willing to move him because it's going to be a couple years before the Jazz are being really talked about. So, personally, that's what I would do. I would say maybe you go out and get a younger guy because AD ain't going to get younger, LeBron's not going to get younger, and if they're going to win, they're going to win now. So that's what I would do. But Matt, you got any opinions on that?
Yeah, as far as bigs go, there's teams, like Nikola Vucevic is a great trade piece for a team looking for a big man, but I don't think the Lakers are really in the market to go get, maybe a bona fide star. Kessler, like you said, it's a big name, very talented guy, young, going to be due some money soon, so that's going to be, quite the haul. Valanciunas, I think, is a good one just because he is a veteran presence, not going to cost as much. When you also got to think about salary matching. The Lakers are paying a lot of money to some of their better players, and when you trade for a guy like Vucevic or Kessler, you're gonna have to match salary. The Lakers are not exactly in salary cap heaven right now, so that's something you got to think about. Look, their backup big man as it stands is Jared Vanderbilt, and as good of a player as he is, like we mentioned, he is coming off a year where he did not see the court. And he's not exactly the biggest guy either. So I like the Valanciunas move. I think Vucevic would be another guy to keep an eye on. But like I said, I just don't know how much star power they're really going to go after. But depth for sure is something that, is going to have to be looked at with this team.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. So, kind of back up a little bit, what we talked about earlier, do we think that this team can make a deep playoff run? And now when I say deep, I mean, conference finals or the finals. That's what I mean in deep. Semifinals, you win a round in the playoffs, whoop-de-whoop. That's not deep. So, with no additions, let's say the Lakers don't do anything. They keep the guys they got. Carson, yes or no, do you think they make it to the Western Conference Finals?
Yeah, I believe in him.
Okay.
I believe in LeBron.
No, I do not. I think there's just too much talent in the West. You got the Thunder. You got teams like the Suns, who are every bit as talented as the Lakers. You have too many teams in the West. It's too loaded of a conference. I do not think that the Lakers can match up with a team like the Thunder, even Golden State. Man, I just don't think so.
Yeah, and another thing, talking kind of piggyback off what you said, Matt. The West is loaded. Like if the playoffs were to begin today, you're looking at Oklahoma City with the 1. Houston, red hot. Houston, young, talented team. Memphis is legit. They're looking at the 3. You got Denver at the 4 seed and Lakers at the 5 seed. So you're talking right now. You're talking the Lakers on the road taking on Denver in the best of 7 series. With the greatest basketball player in the NBA right now. Statistically, Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player in the league. Front runner MVP. Now I think the Lakers can do that. I think that they can go to Denver. I think they could win a best of 7 against them. The Lakers do match up pretty well against Denver. Now, Lakers, like I said, Nuggets and Lakers being that 4-5 seed. If you win that, you're traveling to Oklahoma City, and that's tough. That Thunder team is very good. I mean, they put a schmacking on the Cavaliers the other day, and the Cavaliers are they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. So, and they're playing without, Chet Holmgren, which is a huge add for themselves. So, that's kind of my feelings about it. Now, let's kind of transition a little bit to, some more NBA action today. we just talked about it. The Rockets, they travel to Atlanta to take on the Hawks. They are 6.5-point favorites in that game. The Jazz, they travel to Golden State to play the Warriors. Warriors are 12.5 favorites. And then, Matt, your Milwaukee Bucks traveling to Portland tonight at 5.5. So, small little slate today of basketball, but still some games going on, which we like to see. Now, just kind of transition back over, talk about a little bit of NFL because that's the draft talks are starting to ramp up. We got people publishing mock drafts. We got the combine coming up here really soon as well. So, kind of talk about who you think your predicted top 10 picks of this year's draft would be. I'll kind of start off. We'll go like I go one, you go one, and then Matt will go to you. So my 101, I think Tennessee selects Cam Ward. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. He's the most talented, I think. I would say he's got a better arm than Sanders. I think I would trust Cam Ward. He's an older guy, but he's got the experience in that. So I would say my 101 would be Cam Ward. Carson, what do you think?
I think Titans go out and pick the best player, the Heisman, Travis Hunter. So, I mean, there's no going wrong with the Heisman winner. Yeah.
Totally. I think, Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft. However, I just feel like Tennessee goes out and gets their franchise guy. Matt, who do you think Tennessee selects at 101?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tennessee quarterback issues are running deep over there. Will Levis is not the guy they thought they were drafting. I think they'd be smart to take Cam Ward. I do agree with you. Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft, but I don't know. I think when you're in, just as tough a spot you are with Tennessee and their quarterback situation, I think you go Cam Ward. I think that's kind of the way things seem to be trending. I think he's just the most polished, thrower of the football, dual threat kind of guy. So if you're Tennessee, I think you go Cam Ward.
Yeah, and
I think.
I can see. Go ahead, Carson. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm not really too caught up on the Titans' salaries options, but there's a lot of free agent quarterbacks that I think they could go out and snag. Like, I'm not really sure what Deshaun Watson, not that. Jameis Winston's doing. I'm not sure what any of those guys are doing. So I feel like there's a good amount of free agents they could go out and tackle.
Yeah, and another name that I've kind of seen, Russell Wilson, another guy that I personally think wouldn't really go to Tennessee. I think he'd be more of with the signing of Pete Carroll in Vegas with the Raiders. I could see him reuniting his Seattle days with Pete Carroll. But my number 2, I have Hunter. I have Hunter going at 2, just because I think the Browns will they need another corner to match up with Denzel Ward and have those two guys. And also, it's just another receiver, to go alongside Jerry Jeudy and Njoku. Now, I don't know how much, I don't think Travis Hunter's going to play all 112 snaps in the NFL like he did in college. It's just different. But Carson, so with you taking Hunter at 1, who do you have Cleveland taking at 2? Do you have them taking quarterback, defensive player?
I think they're going to go Cam Ward. Deshaun Watson, with the Achilles injury, he's not going to be 100% coming back. And, I'm not really sure why they paid him that money, but they're going to have to live with it. And I'm not really a big Deshaun Watson guy, so I think they go out and pick someone else.
Alrighty. Matt, yourself, what do you think with Cleveland?
Yeah, Cleveland fans have been begging for months on months, for the Browns to go out and get a quarterback. If they landed the number 1 pick, I think Ward would be the clear and cut choice, but I just don't think Tennessee's going to let him slide. So for that reason, I think Travis Hunter's your pick too. Obviously, probably highest ceiling, best talent in the draft. I think Cleveland would be foolish to pass on him, and you start the rebuild with a bona fide stud on either side of the ball, wherever they want to throw him. They could use both, or they could just do one side. Either way, whatever side of the ball you put him on, he's going to shine. So I think that's where you start your rebuild, maybe get a free agency quarterback. Who knows? But I think Shador at 2 would be a reach. So if they're going to take a QB, they trade down. But Hunter would be the pick there for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same road that I am on. Now this is where things get interesting. The Giants. The Giants are picking at 3. Now this could be, you could have about 4 or 5 different answers here. I personally, the Giants have a great defense. I think they have a very solid defense, and I think they go and upgrade their defense and take, outright, an absolute dog in Abdul Carter from Michigan or from Penn State. Sorry, excuse me. I think he'll really help that defensive line. I mean, that defensive line's already great, but you add another star like that to that defensive line, and I think the Giants go out and get a free agent quarterback to assemble that ship. I don't believe in Tommy DeVito anymore, and Drew Lock's he got his chance and he didn't really shine. So I got the Giants taking Abdul Carter at 3. Carson?
I'm gonna go Shador at 3. Just match him up with Malik. I think Malik and the Giants head coach, the ownership there, has shown interest in Shador, so I think they'll follow through with that.
No, I like that. The Giants do need. They thought they had Daniel Jones for their franchise, and that didn't go well for them. And at 3 of them grabbing a quarterback, a superstar quarterback like that, hoping to be the face of the franchise. Which I mean, I know Shador, he has hopes to go there. He wants to go there. I saw his Giants cleats that he wore in his final game against BYU. The red and blues. I think he really wants to be in New York, so that'd be a good place for him. Matt?
Yeah, I think Shador is the pick here. As much as I said it would be a reach for him at 2. I think the Giants would be foolish not to take quarterback here. Obviously, Danny Dimes was a complete and utter failure. Time to cut your ties there, move on. Locke or DeVito, clearly not the answer. So I think you go Shador here. He's at this point the best quarterback on the board. If Ward doesn't fall to 3, which I don't think he will, I think you just have to take a quarterback here. Because like you said, the Giants roster, when you look at it, their defense isn't awful, and they have weapons on offense. So I think you take a quarterback here, and you try and build around Shador.
No, and kind of like what I was talking about with Carson. I do really like that a lot. So, all right. At number 4, I'm gonna keep it just short and quick. Patriots are at 4. They got their franchise guy in Drake May. They really like him a lot. I think they're going to protect him, and I think they go out and take the best tackle in the draft, and Will Campbell from LSU. Carson?
Yeah, I like that. I actually do like that pick a lot. Just helping solidify their line, and yeah.
Like that.
I've still got Abdul Carter on my board, and I think that it would be foolish to pick to go past him at 4 here if you're the Patriots, if he's available at 4. Dude's a freak. I mean, he was single-handedly almost wrecking Notre Dame's offensive line with one arm, or one good shoulder, that is, in the semifinal game. Carter's a freak. I got to see that firsthand in the semifinal when he's playing my Irish. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you're at 4 here, I think behind Hunter, he's the second best raw talent in this draft. Dude's an absolute freak of nature. So you bolster that pass rush. I think Patriots take him at 4.
Yeah, and it's just gonna depend on how everything's going. This is one draft though that I personally don't see a lot of teams moving up to get guys that like within the first 5 picks. I mean, you rarely see that anyways, unless it's I'm sorry to say this, Matt, unless we're trading up to take Trubisky. So you don't really see that a whole heck of a lot of teams trading up to the top 5. All right. We'll do a couple more here. We'll do Jacksonville at the 5th spot. And I was, like Matt said, Abdul Carter going to the Patriots. I think I kind of went back and forth with it, but Jacksonville, they got a good quarterback. ETN, he's a good guy. Bigsby showed a lot last year. That receiving core, you're going to get Kirk back. Brian Thomas had a great year. Evan Ingram struggled, but he's still a solid tight end in the league. So I think Jacksonville shifts and focuses on defense this year, and I think they take arguably the second best player on defense in this draft, in Mason Graham from the University of Michigan. just beef up that interior. Because Jacksonville was one of the worst rush defenses in the league last year, and I think they try to put a good point of emphasis on that. So I got the Jags taking Mason Graham at number 5. Carson?
I think the Jags go ahead and snag up Abdul Carter since he falls one more to them. I just think kind of be foolish to look past one of the best defensive players in college football this year. So, yeah, I got the Jags.
And Matt?
I've got another defensive guy at Ole Miss, Walter Nolan, probably the second best pass rusher in this draft behind Carter. Really good guy. He's young, so I think you compare him with Trayvon Walker, and Jags need help all over the board. Like, look, it doesn't matter what they do here; they need a lot of help down there, specifically on the trenches. So, got to do something.
Yeah, and we'll just do this top 6, this 6 pick here with the Vegas Raiders, and new coach in the system. The Raiders, they had a very rough year. That bad quarterback play, running back injuries all year long. But the one bright spot on that team, I believe, last year was Brock Bowers. I mean, he had one heck of a season. He tore it up for me in fantasy. Absolutely loved it. He'll for sure be my keeper next year, regardless of what the Raiders do with this 6th pick. But I have the Raiders taking Shadur Sanders at 6. I don't know if he falls that far. I think he will, maybe, if everything falls into plan here. But I also think that the Raiders will bring in a veteran presence, like I mentioned earlier with Russell Wilson, reuniting with Pete Carroll. Kind of just mentor him a little bit. Get him a little bit. So I got the Raiders taking Shadur Sanders at 6. Carson?
At 6, I kind of see the Raiders. One name that's kind of been floating around, what I've been seeing, is Will Johnson from Michigan. They've kind of been comparing him to like Pat Surtain and people like that, and so I think that'd be a good pickup with Pete Carroll coming in, and hopefully Pete could get, like I said, the free agent quarterback realm is big this year, so hopefully get something there.
Yeah, and I do. I'm just gonna budge in here real quick before Matt you go. I do like that corner, the Will Johnson pick. Corner. Vegas got absolutely torched last year, and if you look at the division they're in, the 3 quarterbacks, you got Mahomes, you got Herbert, and you got Bo Nix. Arguably, the top division for quarterbacks. So you're gonna need help on that defensive side of things, and having that solid corner in Johnson. I think that could. I'm not going to say the Raiders are going to go to the playoffs, and say that they might have a winning record, but I think that would slowly start to kind of turn the tracks a little bit for them. But Matt, who do you got the Raiders selecting at 6?
Yep, I agree with Carson. I had Will Johnson. Just a really solid corner, like he said. Surtain kind of guy. Jair Alexander. He's just a lockdown corner. He was the best corner in football this year, college football. Yeah, I think he makes all the sense in the world for the Raiders there. But to your point, Dawson, as well with Will Campbell, they just need help. So Raiders are one of those teams, these top 10 teams, it doesn't really feel like there's clear-cut, ranking of talent. So it's just kind of a fit thing, and I'm not really sure. But I think Johnson's the pick here for the Raiders at 6.
I like it. All right, and I know I said we are going to do the top 6 picks, but I just want to jump forward here real quick because we do have a Bears fan in here, and Bears pick at 10. With how everything's looking, Packer fan here, I'm a little worried. You got studs all around the offensive side of the ball. Defense played very well. Ben Johnson coming in, great offensive minded coach. I'm a little worried, not massive, but just a little bit there. On my mock, clearly where the Bears struggled last year was offensive line and defensive line. They were just atrocious there. So I have the Bears selecting either one of 2 guys. I have them taking the guard out of Georgia, or I have them taking Kelvin Banks at the University of Texas. And I'm a huge Oklahoma fan, so I got to see Kelvin Banks absolutely just destroy people all year long. I think he had 4 pancakes against Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. Great tackle. So I have Kelvin Banks taken getting drafted by the Bears, the 10th overall pick. Carson, did you get a chance to check that or no?
Yeah, I agree with that. Kelvin Banks, if he falls, uh, I know he's ranked as one of the best offensive linemen in the draft. So, I mean, if he falls, that'd be nice. But yeah.
Yeah. And Matt, your Chicago Bears. Where do you think they go here?
So obviously, Will Campbell would be the dream. That's dream number one scenario. He somehow falls to 10, but we got to be realistic. That's probably not going to happen. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is my second option. He was an unbelievable tackle at Texas, like you mentioned, pancake machine. He's only 6'4", so he might have to transition to guard at some point, which would be fine. He's an athletic dude, so I wouldn't mind seeing him at left tackle or guard for the Bears. But a name to keep an eye on for them as well is Ashton Genty. And a lot of people, might laugh at that, But look, Ben Johnson's coming from Detroit where they took Jahmyr Gibbs and, ran everybody off the field with him. So I think Gibbs and Swift, maybe you throw another power back in there. Disgusting. Just a disgusting duo. Johnson likes to have his toys, and he likes to create, for a lack of better term, some BS. He likes to really get after you with those two backs. So I think Genty's a guy to keep an eye on there at 10. I think it would be a little foolish with just the state of this offensive line to take a running back right there, but I wouldn't be shocked and I wouldn't be mad because I think the offensive line is also fixable through, later picks or also the free agency. But Kelvin Banks would probably be my number one, and that's who I have them taking, and it's who I hope they take. But Genty wouldn't shock me either, but I think anything outside of an offensive, lineman or Genty would just be stupid. So don't fuck it up, Ryan Poles.
Yeah, and I'm totally with Matt here, and kind of piggyback off what Matt did say. With Ben Johnson having Gibbs and Montgomery last year and just literally ran off the field with everybody. I think it was the game against Tennessee. I want to say they won that game 55 to something, and Jared Goff threw for 66 passing yards. Granted, the defense did have a touchdown that game, and there was a special teams touchdown, but still. I mean, that 1-2 punch with Sonic and Knuckles drove me absolutely nuts last year. And you did say, a good 1-2 punch with a power back. Let's not forget, Roschon Johnson is not a bad running back by any means. He is a great goal line power back. If you need him to get you a yard, he's going to get you a yard. So you take, you put you put Genty and Swift, that gives your 1-2 punch. And then, like you said, that power back could be nasty. Roschon Johnson would fit that perfectly. I think there was a couple of times last year where, he would come in, if it was 3rd and goal on the 2 or 2nd and goal on the 1, he'd come in, he'd punch that puppy in. So
yeah, and I do just want to know, of course, obviously the Lions have a much better offensive line than the Bears. Nobody's going to argue that. So, and I think Ben Johnson, obviously, I would hope he knows that. If you plan on bringing Genty in, you cannot run them both out there behind some crap O-line. You got to retool that O-line. That's why I think Banks makes more sense, and I think that's the way they're probably going to lean. Because, look, there's going to be stud running backs going in the first round for, years to come now at this point, right? Teams like Atlanta and, Detroit, they're proving that Bijan and Gibbs and some of these guys, are worth taking in the first round, So, and Genty will probably be the same case. That guy's unbelievable. So, I think the offensive line has to be a little bit better for this to work, but I wouldn't be opposed if they want to beef up the O-line and go ahead and take Genty.
No, and, I agree with you 100%. Now, you guys got anything else, any NFL-related things you'd like to talk about, speak about, college football, anything football-related at all? Or
Notre Dame's back.
Yes, they are. Actually, that did just bring up one question in my mind. Do you guys see anybody trading up in the draft to a top 10 pick to select, maybe a guy that someone's really in love with, or, something like something that would be a scheme fit for somebody? I personally, I could see guys like, a team in desperate need for maybe some receiver help. I could see a team maybe trying to slide into the top 10 to take Terrell McMillan from Arizona. I have him actually going 8th on my mock draft to Carolina. But I was real tempted to make that selection just because of the sole fact that I think, Carolina could possibly go out and go get Garrett Wilson. And I think, they would do that because, Garrett Wilson's openly admitted, he's reposted Bryce Young highlights. I mean, he, it would, Carolina can definitely 100% afford him. So if something like that was to happen, I know the Jets select before Carolina, a possible Garrett Wilson trade for back-to-back picks for the Jets doesn't seem too unrealistic, in my opinion. But, that is a long shot. And then my ninth pick, I had Mekhi Williams, from Ohio State, going to the Saints. I think the Saints, they need a lot of help everywhere. But, start off with the defense. You can't go wrong with a good defensive piece right there. But, Carson, do you have anybody, maybe trading up to select somebody or anything like that?
No, I don't have any thoughts on that.
No thoughts? Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think those types of things are very difficult
Yeah.
to predict. The Bengals picking at 17 is interesting to me because they're a team that needs a lot, and I mean a lot of defensive help. Now, don't get me wrong. They just hired Al Golden, who was the best defensive coordinator in the country. Not even a question. So that's going to help a little bit. He'll right the ship eventually. But I think the Bengals are an interesting one at 17, potentially, just with all the help they need on defense. But like I said, those things are so hard to predict. So
Yeah, very much so they are. And like I said, that actually fits perfect to what I said earlier. The Bengals, I could see them trading up to take Malachi Williams. You get another stud interior guy to match him up with Trey Hendrickson, who, don't get me wrong, led the league in sacks last year and is on Defensive Player MVP candidate. So, yeah, I think and the hire that hire from Notre Dame was absolutely massive for Cincinnati. I think they're going to take a big step defensively next year. So, all right, we're going to transition to our last part of this episode. Talk a little bit of MLB. I know the MLB is kind of a little bit far away, but it'll be here fastly before you know it. We'll be playing in South Korea, so it'll be coming up here shortly. So we are going to do on this one. We're gonna just pick a division. We're gonna go division by division. We're gonna pick the floors and ceilings, for some of the teams that are in the division, and we're gonna start off with the NL East. In my opinion, the best baseball division and the best division in all baseball. You got the Mets, you got the Braves, you got the Phillies, three powerhouse squads. I would say my ceiling for the Mets this year, though, is 96 and 66. The pitching does kind of worry me just a little bit. I wouldn't say a lot. They don't. I just feel like they don't. Senga's coming back, but Senga hasn't really done enough to be like, this is our Jacob deGrom or this is our Matt Harvey. So I got their ceiling at 96 and 66, and I think the absolute rock bottom for the Mets is 86 and 76. So not, it's only a 10-game drop, but that's my honest opinion. Carson, what's your ceiling on the Mets this year?
I had them close, pretty close, 95 and 67.
Okay.
I got here if their veterans just keep staying elite and their rotation doesn't have any injuries, they could sneak into a wild card spot, maybe challenge everyone else in the division. So then there's that.
Okay, Matt, what's your thoughts on the Mets ceiling this year?
I'll go 93 and 69. I just think that, I think the math adds up there.
Yep.
It's the Mets, man. Like, something always goes wrong, right? Like, Soto will, sprain his ankle, the first week. It's like, it's the Mets. Like, something always goes wrong. I don't know. Last year felt like a really weird, Cinderella run, which, those things don't even really exist. I guess they do in baseball, but I don't know. You're in Milwaukee and you're 1 out away from being eliminated in the wild card. Pete Alonso pokes one out, couldn't believe one out. I think last year was a little bit of Cinderella. I know they signed Soto. I know the rotation's getting healthy. I get it. I get all of it. But I think 93 wins is as high as this team gets, and I think that they underperformed that, to be quite honest with you. It's a tough
Yeah.
division, like you mentioned. Braves are going to
Yeah.
get healthy. It's a tough division.
Uh-huh.
And it's the
And
Mets. Give me a
correct.
break.
And, another thing we haven't talked about is, you mentioned Pete Alonso. We don't know where Pete Alonso is going to play this year. He's still unsigned. He doesn't have a contract. Now,
Yeah.
my thing is, maybe they avoid him because, they're paying Soto a lot of money. Everybody knows Soto is getting a lot of money. If they push, Pete Alonso out the door, I don't know if Mets fans are really going to like it or dislike it, just for the sake of his contract, I would imagine. But, if Alonso's gone, you move Mark Vientos over to first, and I think he'd fill in that hole for Alonso, and then you'd slide in Brett Beatty at third. Brett Beatty, he's a solid player. He's not a blowover guy. You send him out there, you're gonna be like, all right, you're gonna get 500 at bats this year. Go hit. Like that's what I could see realistically the Mets doing. Next team on this list, I have the Atlanta Braves at 63 and 69, or not 63, 93. My apologies, 93 and 69 is their ceiling. This Braves team, they're gonna get their guns back. Acuna's coming back. Strider, he only played 2-3 weeks since of the first 2-3 weeks of the season last year. He was a Cy Young guy up there. I think this Braves team's gonna be interesting to watch this year. Matt Olson kind of had a little bit of a rough year last year. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like everybody else. I feel like his numbers are going to go back up, and so will everybody else's with Acuna back in the lineup. Because like last year, watching a couple games, when Carson, you and I went to the Braves Cardinals game, you could pitch around a couple guys, and you wouldn't have to really too worried about focusing on it. But like with Acuna, you're not going to be able to pitch around everybody or try to get these weaker outs. Austin Riley, he kind of had a little rough year last year. Now, the one bright spot they had was Marcell Ozuna. Marcell Ozuna absolutely crushed baseballs last year. I don't know if he does that again this year or not. We'll have to see. But yeah, getting the catchers back, Murphy and D'Arnaud will be good ads. Ozzy comes back. They'll be solid out there. And the big ad that they did was get Juxon Profar. I feel like he's going to be a massive switch hitter. Completely play him anywhere in the outfield, can DH him. I think he's going to be a good ad for the Braves. But I got the Braves at 93 and 69 this year as their ceiling. Carson?
Yeah, I pretty much just completely agree with you. I mean,
Okay.
I think getting their stars back, they have a real chance of being one of the best teams.
Oh, yeah, no. Totally agree. Matt, what do you think the ceiling for the Atlanta Braves is this year?
Give me them going 98 and 64. Yeah, 98 and 64. Look, they have a great rotation, man. I mean, you're talking about Chris Sale, Ronaldo Lopez, big fan of the program there, and Spencer Strider. Those are three guys capable of winning Cy Youngs. People are gonna, laugh and gawk at Raylo being in that conversation, but that guy is a stud. He's a gas chucker, and he was very good for the Braves last year before he got hurt. Yeah, like you mentioned it, they're getting everybody back. This is probably, if you had to go around and like rank talent in the National League, Dodgers, fully healthy Braves. I think they're the team best equipped to take down the defending champs, fully healthy. Health's a big thing, and Acuna and some of these guys, Albies, they've proven that they are prone to injury. So maybe you got to pay a little more attention to that. But fully healthy, we saw what they can do back in 21. So I think fully healthy, this team's got 98 win potential.
No, and I love that. And, like you said, with the starting pitching staff, with Ronaldo, Chris Sale, Strider's coming back. A guy that kind of started to pick it up at the end of the year last year was Spencer Schwellenbach. He pitched really well at the end of the year last year. He pitched at the game Carson and I went to as well. Didn't throw bad against the Cardinals. But, that's another guy that I think you can look out for. It's going to be a very dominant, I wouldn't say the best, because the Dodgers exist, but I would say definitely a top three rotation there, pending injuries. All right, my third one is the Philadelphia Phillies, and I have the Philadelphia Phillies at 98-64, and I have the Philadelphia Phillies win the division. They're good. They're flat out great team, great pitching staff. You got Zach Wheeler. You got Aaron Nola, You got that 1-2 punch is disgusting. Solid bullpen. They lost a couple guys, but still a very solid bullpen. You look at their bats. You got Schwarber, you got Turner, you got Bohm, you got Harper, Realmuto. You got studs. Now, I would say I feel like the Philadelphia Phillies are going to make their mark near the trade deadline. I think they are going to go out there and they're going to get them a big right-handed bat because they kind of struggle a little bit with the right-handed bats. They got a lot of lefties on that squad. But I think the Phillies take the division this year. I do like the Braves a lot, but you just can't trust the Braves, with the injuries and all that. So if I had to put my money on a team to win the division this year, it would be the Philadelphia Phillies. Carson, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna probably agree with that as well. I think since they won it last year, they have a pretty good chance, and with Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, I mean, you can't go wrong as long as they're with their solid rotation as well in the bullpen. So, I mean, they could easily win it again if something goes wrong with the Braves, but that's kind of my take.
I like it. Matt.
Got them going 90 and 72 for their ceiling. Look, somebody's got to lose these games in the NL East. A lot of talent in that division, man. Not all these teams are going to be able to win 95 games, more than likely. I think the Phillies are going to take a little bit of a step back. The back end of that rotation has always kind of been a question mark. I know they got really, really good innings out of I'm blanking on his name now. Who was their 3 last year? The lefty, Ranger Suarez. They got really, really good innings out of Suarez last year. He took a step forward. That bullpen is also kind of it's kind of dicey. I don't know. I just gut feeling that they're the team that takes a step back. They're still going to be good, and they still have fully healthy a team that's very capable of giving the Dodgers a run for their money. But not everybody's going to win 95 net games in that division, and I think the Phillies are the team that takes a step back.
Okay, and then the final two teams in the division, we have the Marlins and the Nationals. These teams, you don't really talk about them a lot because you got the 3 powerhouses that we already talked about earlier. My ceiling for the Marlins this year, I think it's going to be rough. I really do. I got them at 70 and 92 at best. I think the Marlins are the worst team in the division. Playing the Phillies, the Braves, and the Mets, you can count it up. That's anywhere between 15 to 20 losses, just right, maybe even more, right there. They don't have anything that really gets you on your feet, gets you really excited. I don't really think it's gonna be a great year for the Marlins. So, Carson.
Yeah, I like that. I think they're pretty young as well, so just some young guys that could step up, or they might not step up as well. So, I mean, yeah, they're definitely bottom of that conference, but yeah. So,
Matt.
Yeah, I'll take 73, and what would that be? 69. I don't know. I think that they're an interesting team. They're very young. You look at their roster, you don't really recognize a lot of names. There's not really a lot of guys that prove themselves at the big league level. But, that rotation, man, Yuri Perez, Max Meyer, obviously Alcantara, Edward Cabrera, Braxton Garrett, they've got young dudes. And sometimes with teams like this where, you got guys that are fighting to stay on a roster, the effort level is just higher. So you never know, really. Obviously, yeah, they're bad. Like, the roster as it sits right now is bad. They weren't good last year, but I think 73 wins for them. If they crept into the low 70s win total, go about right, not close to 500, a little under, I don't think people should be shocked. You just never know what can happen when you get a bunch of young guys on the team and they're all, playing their butts off to stay on the roster. So who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I totally blinked on their pitching staff. They got a lot of young studs on there too, but. The other thing, too, is, young studs, how is that going to translate over to the MLB? Alcantara, he's proved himself. He's a dominant guy. He can throw you a ton of innings. But, Yuri Perez, he had a great start and then, got hurt, missed the rest of the season. So just developmental. You got to development those guys and just, like you said, they're playing for their job. and you can get a lot of high effort out of those guys. All right, final team, the Washington Nationals. I have their ceiling at 84 and 78. I have them with an over 500 record. I know I'm kind of high on the Nationals this year. I like kind of where the ship is going there. I think James Wood, he got a lot of experience last year. I think he's going to take his step up. Mackenzie Gore, I think he's going to have a dominant year this year. I really do. Outside of that, they got some decent talent everywhere else. But I feel like this is going to be sort of a bounce back year for the Nationals. I don't think they're going to win anything at all. But I think the fans in Washington should be, a little bit excited for it. They saw their football team. Look what their football team did this year. They got the fans going, got the fans ready to go, happy, all that good stuff. And I think the Nationals can do that too. Now, I'm not saying the Nationals are going to make it to the NL Championship Series. Absolutely not. But I'm just saying that I really think the Nationals could, take a step up this year, be a pretty solid team, and, be a team that, if you're fighting for a wild card or fighting for a division, in, early August or late August, the whole month of August and early September, that might not be a team that you want to run into. They could just play spoilers, and I see them doing that a lot. So I got the Nationals at 84 and 78. Carson?
Yeah, I got their ceiling at 79 and 83. Just another team like the Marlins. They're very young, and if their young studs show up, they could surprise some teams and win some games. But again, like you said, they're not going to do anything special. So.
Yep. And Matt?
I'll say 81 and 81. I think 500 is a reasonable goal for them. Look, when they won the championship in 2019, the following years were ugly, man. They had to trade everybody out. You got guys retiring. Strasburg can't throw a baseball anymore. It was ugly. And, Nationals fans didn't have much to cheer for, didn't have much to look forward to. They were just constantly dumping guys for prospects. However, some of those guys are growing up. Gore, like you said, he's really turning into a strikeout machine, man. They got James Wood, Abrams, Keibert Ruiz. They've got guys. I didn't know they signed Nathaniel Lowe until I looked at their roster. That's already a, World Series winning first baseman who just pounds the crap out of the ball. So it's a young team, man. Ahmad Rosario, another stud. Not stud, veteran, what I meant to say. Look, it's a young team. The rotation's ugly. They have Michael Soroka on the team, which I can tell you from experience, that guy shouldn't play baseball in the MLB, but that's beside the point. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think they're, like you said, if you're a team down the stretch trying to fight for a wild card spot, you're not going to want to play the Washington Nationals. They've been in selling mode for 5 years now, and I think they're finally kind of turning the corner where it's like, hey, these guys might begin to slowly but surely reach the buyer's echelon. Might not be this year, but it's coming. I don't think the Nationals are as bad as they've been in the past.
Yep. And, I agree. It's kind of a little bit what I said too, and I think, you look at that roster and, Keibert, we forgot to mention Keibert Ruiz. He was another, big name that they got in the Trey Turner-Scherzer trade. You got Dylan Cruz that's probably going to be up and coming this year.
So young. They
Yes,
brought him up
so
so quick, man. He'll be all right.
and that goes, one of two ways too. Kind of like, I'm a Cardinals fan, so we kind of forced up Jordan Walker. It was Jordan Walker this, Jordan Walker that. Jordan Walker's the next Barry Bonds. Well, Jordan Walker got to the MLB, and he kind of struggled. He couldn't handle that hype. Now, I don't think Dylan Cruz is going to do that because he was on a national championship team at LSU. He was the Golden Spikes winner. He is a great player. I think the Nationals are going to have a very, they're going to be an exciting team to watch. If you're sitting back, and the Nationals are playing, somebody on Monday Night Baseball or Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. That's a game. I'd kick back and watch. Watching the younger guys play. They kind of got more. They got a little bit more get to them than everybody else does, and that's just kind of fun to watch as a fan as well. So, what Well, that kind of wraps up the ceiling and the floors kind of talk here. You know, I'm just gonna skim through my floors. I got the Mets floor at 86 and 76. I got the Braves at 84 and 78. I got the Phillies floor at 82 and 80. Marlins are 62 and 100, and then my floor for the Nationals is 68 and 94. But yeah, I'm really high on the Nationals this year. You know, I think, you know, I wouldn't say like really, really high. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs, but they're gonna be a fun team to look out for and fun team to watch and all that fun stuff. So, well, do you guys got anything else that you'd like to add about anything or anything like that, Carson?
Who do you think gets the Saints job?
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. I did see earlier today, Eberflus. Oh, Eberflus, the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys.
Listen, as far as that goes,
this is all Matt.
real
This is
quick,
all Matt.
it's not. I think it's simple. Failed head coaches oftentimes land on their feet and end up being really good coordinators. I think there's a different level, right? And that's a little bit of what makes me nervous about Ben Johnson is, you know, these elite coordinators that get turned into head coach. You know, you're given your first head coaching job, and I feel like more times than not it doesn't work out. You know, you see it Hackett, Eberflus, Nagy. You see, I mean, the Bears and the Jets are the masters of this crap. You know, they hire these guys, and they're just not ready to be a head coach. You know, and it's first time head coaching job. There's a lot of pressure in cities like Chicago and New York, but they always land on their feet. So I think actually Flus is going to be fine. Now Dallas, that's a weird place, man. You got Jerry Jones with the weirdest quotes ever. He had one today, and I don't remember what it was, but it was something stupid. That organization is just always going to be in a weird spot just because of how much they're worth and the kind of person that's running it. But I like it for the Cowboys, to be quite frank with you, because I think he is a great defensive mastermind. When he left, the Bears' defense looked like high school level defense. So I think he's good for a team as their DC, but God forbid if anyone ever hires them as his head coach.
No, yeah, and, you know, I agree with you on that. You know, if you're talking, this is kind of like the same situation that Robert Saleh was in, you know. Absolute dominated, had one of the best defenses in San Francisco for the longest time. I remember as a Green Bay fan always running into San Francisco in the playoffs, and they'd just find a way. They'd always find a way to get that stop when they needed that stop. You know, and then he goes to the Jets. You know, I wouldn't say it went horrible for him there, but, you know, it wasn't what Jets fans had in mind at all. But now he goes back to San Francisco, and I think, you know, he's going to dominate. I think he's going to get that defense rolling again. I think he's going to have a different style, and I do like that as well. But, yeah, Carson, you said Saints job. I kind of took a peek at this earlier today to see, you know, who some of the candidates were, and I really like Mike McCarthy. I think McCarthy fits the system the greatest. I think he is probably their top candidate. He's an offensive-minded guy. And that's the thing. The Saints haven't really had that offensive-minded guy since Sean Payton left. And, you know, with Dennis Allen, you know, defensive guy. And I think they get an offensive guy in that system. I mean, I don't really know if you give up on Derek Carr just yet. You know, I think if Derek Carr can stay healthy, he'll be a serviceable, solid, veteran quarterback for you. You know, you got Kamara. Keandre Miller showed some really good signs last year as well. You know, hopefully Chris Olave can, you know, bounce back from that nasty concussion injury he had last year. He stays healthy. Jawan Johnson's a solid option, too, at tight end. But, yeah, I mean, that Saints team, there's a lot that's got to be fixed, and, you know, it's going to take a little bit of a time for them to, you know, turn that ship around. I think McCarthy's probably the best hire. I don't know who they've all interviewed, or I don't really keep up with the Saints that a whole heck of a lot, but I just think McCarthy's probably the greatest candidate out there. So I would say, if I was to guess, I'd put McCarthy. Carson?
Yeah, I'd probably say the same thing. And, I mean, that conference is in shambles. I'm not going to lie. Besides the Buccaneers, I mean, unless the Panthers make some moves, I mean, the Falcons look shaky at the end of the year there. I mean, who knows what they're going to do next year with Kirk and Penix. So, I mean, if they get Mike McCarthy and I mean, the roster's not bad. Derek Carr showed what he can do with a decent team. I mean, you have Alvin Kamara. His ceiling is through the roof. So, I
Sure
mean,
is.
they could be a decent team if they get the right coach.
Matt,
What?
you got who do you believe best suitor for the New Orleans Saints job?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I don't know. I don't know who's left. I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. Like all the candidates that I liked are kind of gone at this point. I don't know. I'm just not a big. I don't like looking into these coordinators and deciphering. I just saw. I think It's getting reported that Kingsbury's going back to Washington. I thought maybe he would have been a guy, but he's going back. So I don't really know, to be quite frank with you. A little behind on that stuff. Once Johnson got hired, I kind of just stopped caring because, Bears dominate the offseason once again, got the top candidate. Who else cares where anybody else goes?
That is true. But, yeah, so I don't got anything else to add. Carson, you don't look like you
got
got
one
anything?
thing.
You got one thing? What's up?
Got one thing. All right, I got 4 college basketball picks for you guys. I live, breathe, and die by this shit. So you're gonna have me.
That is true.
I'll be
true.
damned if I don't hit you with 4 picks.
All right,
First,
let's hear it.
I'll keep this short. First, St. John's is playing at Georgetown. Actually, right now as we speak, the game's starting. Take the under 139.5. Both those teams are gritty defensively. St. John's likes to dominate in the paint. Georgetown has some wrecking balls down low. Thomas Sorber, going to be a first-round pick. Take the under in that game. No chance that thing gets above 139.5. Next, take Kentucky plus 10.5. Mark Pope's doing an unbelievable job at Kentucky in year one. They're playing at Tennessee tonight. Great team, but they just had an absolute boat race down in Auburn in terms of offense. Neither team can put the ball in the basket. Kentucky's a great team on the offensive end of the floor. I like Kentucky plus 10.5. Give me Minnesota.
Can I say one thing
Yeah,
before you go to
go
the
ahead.
next one?
Go ahead.
I love that you put the pick out there, but I will not be doing that one. Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt the other day, and that one stung. So, but I do like it. I do like the knowledge and talk there. Kentucky looks pretty well for the majority of the year.
As we speak, I'm putting this parlay down on Fliff, actually. Next, give me Minnesota plus 14.5. Look, Minnesota, man. This is a team that's been flying under the radar. They're 11-9, but Dawson Garcia is electric. This guy is absolutely electric. He puts the ball in the basket like no other. They've struggled, man. Like, they've been bad in Big Ten play, but last 3 games, beat Michigan in overtime, beat Iowa, Iowa's whatever, but then they beat Oregon. So this is a team that's hot. They were terrible before that, but they are hot. They're walked into where the hell does Michigan State play? Not Ann Arbor. I don't know where they play, but they're walking into Michigan State, and that's a great team. But 14.5 is just flat out disrespectful to Minnesota on the kind of run they've been on. And lastly, I'm going to throw it in. Marquette minus 8.5. Butler's just not good. They can't rebound the basketball. So as long as Marquette makes shots, this is going to be an easy cover at 8.5. And that's all I got.
We got Ben Gold over 10.5 boards tonight, or
look, that guy's been attacking the boards like nuts lately. Marquette has a poor shooting night. Is that his line?
I think it was 8.5. I want to say
that can't be the line. I would take 8.5. 10.5 as an alt line is a little risky. You're kind of asking for it. 8.5. Man, Georgetown just can't, or not Georgetown, excuse me. Butler can't rebound the basketball. I'll be quite honest. I think Marquette had 18 offensive rebounds, which they're not a team that grabs offensive rebounds like that. So, in their first one, so I would take that, to be quite frank with you. But yeah, Marquette 8.5. There's your college ball picks. That's all I think about when I wake up in the morning and go to bed. So,
love it.
Give me college basketball.
Love it.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Well, that's going to conclude everything that we had on the show segment today. And we will be looking for, either look out for a new episode either tomorrow, the 29th, or if not, the 30th. So, appreciate you two stopping in. Sure, we'll leak it up again. So,
yep.
Alrighty. Take care, guys.
Yep.
Have a good one.